let's go through Splitt Knee again. So it's been about a week since the rough edit breakdown, I think. It might have been a little bit longer than that. And I've got the director edit here, which has color grading on it. It's got things changed on it. Honestly, I could have stopped the editing process here and just handed it in as is now. But basically the plan was to do this, have it so it's like the rough edit was watchable, this is presentable, and then the final product will be the final product. So I actually used this build of the edit to screen to the audience. I'm recording this about a day after the screening was yesterday. So we're going to go through the edit that I showed the audience, specifically find where they had issues, and explain what's going to go into the final edit, which I'm going to start working on tomorrow. So we start with the title sequence. It has been changed a bit. This, where is it? Here. That like flash of black that was in the rough edit title sequence is, as far as I can see, no longer there. I've also moved it slightly, so it's slightly over this way, so then when it comes to the end of the shot, that's too far, that's way too far. When it comes to the end of the shot, the sword doesn't like overlap the visual effect here anymore, because I still had the original Premiere file for the title sequence, so I was able to just go in and change it without it messing up anything like the little light around here. So yeah, that's it. Other than that, you can see a few names have been changed. Kate's name's been changed. Connor's name no longer goes like across faster than Lauren's. They go pretty much at the same speed now. There's Jess Jago, who's a new actor, an actor that was like brought in fairly late in the project. There now, instead of so many credits. Same with Jack. They're there instead of so many credits of just me for the whole other half of the title sequence, which I found odd. Music. This guy's still doing. He still does a lot of the music for it. He doesn't do as much as he originally was going to, but he's done enough to get front credits. Then I've got directed by me. I changed it also starring thing to Chris Thomas. What did I just do there? Aside from that, it's all the same. Aside from this picture, I use a different image of Gluttony, one that kind of represents his character a bit better. In there, that was just a simple change. And then change the film title to Splitt Knee, because it's not called, what was it, Lost Chronicle? It's not called that anymore. And then other than that, the music fades quieter here. This is the first criticism that I found, was that the music goes from like loud and punchy here to like almost silent here. It's a dramatic fade down in sound volume. So in the final edit, I'll bump this half back up. Other than that, the color grading, kind of going for like a warmish color, cause it's meant to be relatively early in the morning, so I was thinking, you know, when the sun's kind of in on coming in, you know, in the morning, it's usually fairly warm kind of color. If I take the color effect off, that's what the clip originally looked like, and I changed it to that. And I just copy and pasted the Slumetry effect over to all of the shots. Just copy and pasted, unless there was like something that was an issue. Yeah, unless there was something that was an issue with copy and pasting, I would just change that like as it came. I made this shot here. I made it a little bit faster. I made this sequence as a whole just a tiniest bit more like snappy. Just because I got feedback from my lecturer saying it felt a little bit too long. So I was like, right, okay, I'll cut it down, make it a bit snappier. So yeah, I turned on TV. I added a like VHS TV static effect to transition from Gluttnormy sitting here to the TV scene, which here it is. This had by far the most like tweaking to it, because first of all I cut off the sides here to make it 4:3 because it's on a 4:3 screen, so you know, realism. You know, I wanted the audience to make it feel like they were watching it on Gluttnormy's TV. So cut it in 4:3, and then I did a ton of stuff to make it look like a VHS effect. I didn't just chuck a filter on there, which I probably should have done to save time, but I wanted to actually make the thing, you know, and I have the satisfaction now of being like, I made this, rather than just putting a template over it. So if we cut off everything on here, you can see there, you can see the color grading. I kind of went for like a grayish color, just because, you know, VHS isn't, they're not brilliant at colors on VHS tape, so it didn't really make sense to have it like really bright and colorful. There was stuff like channel blur, which gives it this like kind of like fuzzy effect. I didn't end up using the noise, and then the offset stuff. This is a keyframe for at certain points where the footage will just bounce up and down really quickly, as a VHS like glitch would happen. You know, when you see like worn VHS tapes and the picture gets really fuzzy. I basically emulated that with offset. And turbulent displace. Honestly, can't remember what turbulent displace did, but yeah, I can't remember what turbulent displace did. It did something to add to this. Let's see, it must have been a very minor thing I added. But yeah, so this was fine. The audience had, as far as I can remember, little to no complaints about it. Yeah, so I've got the audience feedback paper with me now. There was no complaints from any of them. For context, about 20 odd people turned up. There was no complaints, and there was plenty of laughs during this kind of comedy scene. They did say the music here was a bit too loud, and kind of overshadows what Gluttnormy's saying a bit. So I'll just either turn the music down or turn the dialogue up. Anything to just get him more audible. They were all fine with these shots. I added here a very vague kind of purple glow on this part of the screen. Because it's meant to be like a reflection of the portal that he's looking at. So if I turn that, oh dear. I don't think there's really a way to turn it off other than just, oh wait, no, here we go. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of subtle, but you can kind of see there's like a little bit of a purple glare on him coming from that direction, which is where the portal is, because then in the next shot it's there. He goes in, it fades to white quickly. I added a sound effect, like a whoosh sound effect. There for when he transitions over to the castle. Again, I'm happy with how that came out. Anyway, he spots the castle. The audience didn't pick up on this, but I personally thought the castle was a tiny bit too dark. So I might bump up the kind of brightness on this a bit, because Again, if I go up to what the footage originally looked like, it was obviously bright and sunny and all colourful, and then I tried to kind of tone down all the colours because it's meant to be a serious scene. We're confronting the villain here, so yeah, I wanted to get that all toned down. I think I just went a little bit overboard with it. Same with, where is it, this shot. I thought this shot was a touch bit too dark, less so here than in the other ones, but it was just a touch bit too dark. This was a nightmare because I was trying to tone down the colours of the outside of the castle, but I couldn't, you know, just tone down the entire clip, because then otherwise he would be too dark and the backgrounds, the walls around him would also be too dark. So I had to do, I think it was 2 different masks. Well, here's all the colour levels to get this kind of dark tone. You know, stuff like turning the temperature down, turning the highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, all of them down. And kind of bumping up, turning down stuff like blues and greens, which a lot of the raw footage was made up of. And yes, I had a mask here that I had to keyframe because the camera moved slightly, and obviously he moves in this shot. Of kind of like the outside part and where the sun was shining on the castle. But then I had to keyframe it, so I had to make it bigger and smaller for when he was, when his hair was the big thing. It just kept getting in the way. And then the second mask thankfully wasn't as complicated, didn't have to do anything. It's just this bit here was brighter than all of here, so I had to tone that down. Anyway, look through all the papers. There's a few like fades in audio here to kind of, when I skip parts of the soundtrack. Yeah, I skip through parts of the soundtrack so that they fit in the context of the film, so, you know, it doesn't sound off. It sounds like the soundtrack was made for the film, even though it wasn't. But yeah, I just did a constant power fade for, you know, well-timed parts of the soundtrack. We have the villain reveal. One thing that someone from the audience mentioned, they forgot to mention it on the screening, they just messaged me recently about it. She said that the effect here kind of stays the same size. I think it increases a little bit in size, but yeah, see scale, keyframes there, but it only goes to 175% from 100 to 175, which in a, what's this, like 1 second clip, you don't really notice the increase, so I'm gonna have to do a bit more of a dramatic increase in size for it to actually be visible to the audience that it does actually increase. So yeah, also someone said they wanted a sound effect for these kind of VFX magic balls that the characters have. They want a kind of an effect for when they fire them at each other, because right now there isn't any, so again, I'll take that into consideration and try and add that in. Anyway, cuts to black. I did like a quick, literally just like a single frame of white, and then to black to give that kind of like getting knocked out look, like that. I thought that came out quite well. I also put on the effect, I put a green color matte over it, like I did with the portal, so, you know, with, without, you can see the kind of green light going around the character and around the area as he throws that at Glutnormy. Okay, now we're in scene 3. This is the one that had the most criticism, I think. And it's all to do with one specific part. So, it gets up here. This part was all fine. There was no, I don't believe, any feedback on that where he wakes up inside the void. Yes, I don't think there is. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, so there wasn't any major criticism from that bit. The one thing in all of this was Grim Reaper, this guy here, too quiet. People couldn't hear him. To be fair, we didn't have proper speakers in the room until about halfway through the film. We were going purely off of just the audio coming from the Mac that I was playing it off of, which certainly didn't help. But even with the speakers, people were like, yeah, probably still couldn't hear it. You know, it just seemed too. I went for like kind of like an echoey effect. I can show you here. I did a surround reverb to get the audio to be kind of echoey because they're meant to be in like a dark void. There's, you know, there is meant to be a bit of echo there, but I think I went too hard with it so that you can't really understand what he's saying, and also the audio is too quiet, so you know you can't hear either. So I'm gonna, you know, bump the audio up a lot, turn the sound reverb down a lot, and then that should be fixed. Other than that, there was no real issues here with this scene. Someone did say beforehand that this was a lot of kind of back and forth dialogue. It is a fairly long scene, but I've cut it down as much as I can. And you know, this scene's important because it's Gluttonormy, the main character, learning about the villain and basically being set his mission. So without this, there's no context as to, first of all, why he's finding gluttony and how he knows about gluttony. It's also same reason for the audience, whoever hasn't watched the movie that this guy's from, and even those who have, like, you know, going in, everyone was like, right, okay, we've seen your previous projects, how do these tie into each other? This is the scene where that is explained, aside from like one or two projects. So it's an important scene, it's a long scene. I know it's not the most exciting scene, but it's important. And I tried to put a bit of comedy in there. Ethan specifically, I think I mentioned this in the rough cut, he you know, he was great with improv and that, and he made Grim Reaper more comedy central than I made him in the script, which and it fits well here. Again, no one had issues with that. People noticed once Remy steps outside, Gluttonormy seems a bit brighter here than Remy. I can't remember if it's in this scene or it's in the second scene where they're talking like this. But yeah, in one of them they say that Gluttonormy's a bit brighter than Remy, so I'll just adjust the colours a little bit, kind of get them more in line with each other. They also say there's a bit of a continuity error in the fact that Remy's there and Gluttonormy's kind of facing slightly away from him when he's talking. It's annoying, and it's more annoying that I can't fix that because it's way too late to go and reshoot in the project, with, you know, everything else it needs doing, and also, you know, all my actors are in the middle of exams, so they're never free. So being able to reshoot, unfortunately, isn't an option. But I did recognize, you know, the issue is there, you know. It's just a shame that I can't really do anything to fix that, but I can fix the color issues. Other than that, that was kind of the whole of scene 4. Kind of done. Yeah. So scene 5, this is a long scene. For context, this was the point where we managed to get audio working in the room properly. So, you know, the audience got a feel for what the audio actually sounded like rather than what, you know, the audio on the Mac sounded like. Okay, so first bit of feedback we had was in one of these shots. This shot here. So Gluttony says, he says his line, "It's too quiet." Both the shot before and after are much louder than this one. So again, that's just a simple case of just bumping up audio, and then that's fine. Yeah, so in terms of scene 5 though, that was it for feedback. It was just that one bit being too quiet, which I was surprised by. That, you know, I thought that there'd be more issues. Obviously, I've edited this to the best of my ability, but I was expecting, you know, because it's a large scene, there'd be more issue than just one. There was one, actually. Landing on here has made me realize there was one thing where Ethan here leans on the car, and then obviously in this shot it's gone. You know, his arm's not there. That's a continuity error that should be fixable if I just zoom in to Lauren more. If I zoom in more to Lauren, then that should be fixable, but I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet. But we'll see with that. The rest of the scene though came out fine. They all thought it was good. They all thought the throwback to the title sequence remake. They all seem to like that inclusion. I think here is the next point where there's issues. Actually, before we go there, let's talk a little bit about how I actually did this scene. Here, I went for that same kind of warmish color tone, more so here than in Gluttony's house, because I just thought the kind of, you know, orangey wood look on everything in the house, and obviously the wooden chess pieces, the, you know, golden retriever dog, it all kind of fits that color tone. And also, you know, it's indoors, so, you know, I kind of wanted that warm indoor vibe for Connor's house. Not really much to say about the dialogue here. So at this point, when we're at the beach, where, in terms of color grading, I put the temperature up and a few I did a mixture of ups and downs with color grading to get it a warm look, because it's meant to be, you know, it's on the beach, you know, you typically go to the beach on a warm day, but not so warm that it looks nice and cozy, because they are outside, and also a lot of action sequences happen at this point, so, you know, the whites only come down a little bit. Green comes down quite a bit, because again it's not meant to look like super bright and colourful. It's meant to be decently bright here, because this is, again, a comedy portion. You know, the fantasy part of the film hasn't really fully, it's gone out for a while, so so yeah, the rest of these weren't really adjusted. These were a little bit, but yeah, so it's back and forth dialogue between all these guys, and then we get this shot. Like I said in the rough cut, I was gonna zoom this in to get Ethan's foot out of the shot. Worked fine, as you can see. So then we get to Jack with the gun. Everyone found that extremely kind of out of pocket, in like a comedic way, extremely out of pocket, that, you know, it just went from them, you know, fairly innocent, just dropping a Wii game on the floor, to, you know, whooping out a gun, and trying to kill him for it. That got a lot of laughs, so, like I said earlier with that line, and then run off. I did like a kind of comedic zoom out to reveal his heels. I think I talked about that in the rough edit. And he talks to Amy If. When we got the shot in the car, that's what it originally looked like. I had to tone down a lot of the colors because the sun was kind of shining like along here. It did make Konako a little bit dark, but it wasn't too bad. Again, the audience didn't pick up on it, so, you know, that kind of confirms to me that it was fine. So then they drive off, and then we get to the indoor car shots where I remember saying in the rough cut breakdown that I thought, go back, there we go, that Gluttony here it was too dark, so I brought the colours up a bit. Again, kind of not really getting that warm kind of look because they are not on the beach anymore, but still kind of trying to maintain that same kind of weather look. So it still looks like it's a sunny day outside. I put denoising on because the top parts of the car, like the corner here, seems a bit noisy, so I put VR denoise to bring that down a bit. I couldn't do it much because otherwise it would start to cause some weird glitches, like weird effects on his shirt. So I couldn't do it much, but I did it enough, again, for no one to point it out, no one to see it as an issue. Then we get to here. There's a continuity error here. It's a big continuity error. It's the only one that was legitimately distracting, at least to me. The audience didn't seem to see it as big of a deal as I did, but yeah, I really don't like it. Basically, these were shot on 2 different days. So Gluttony gets kicked out here, obviously wearing different shoes, and is wearing a jacket, and then he suddenly just loses them. That's really, really annoying, but again, there's nothing we can really do, unfortunately. I tried to add like a crossfade to make it look like there's a bit of time between this shot and this shot, and like maybe he's like hung around here a bit before walking down the hill, and he's left his jacket there, and honestly, I can't really make up an excuse for the shoes, but yeah, so that's kind of like the theory behind it, to excusing the continuity error, but again, it's still incredibly obvious. We then get the introduction with Bazby. Yeah, this scene with Bazby didn't have any complaints. Much like scene 3, this is just a back and forth dialogue, just introducing the character, explaining why he's here. So then we get to this scene where they're all at the table, not the table, at the sofa. Yeah. I tried to get that kind of warm color again, to kind of match with the scene earlier. Obviously, there was a bit of wiggle room for it to be slightly different, because you know, in the timeline of the film, you know, Connor's scene was about 10 minutes ago, so you know, we can kind of suggest that this is later in the day where, you know, the sun's obviously moved a bit. This is where Greedy says Amy if, more like Amy when, which the audience liked. Honestly, not as much as I thought they would, but they did like it. So we turn it on, and then this scene, we got a few issues with this scene. First of all, the music's too loud. Yeah, the music's just simply too loud. I just gotta bring that down, and we should be fine. With color grading, people pointed out that Gluttony here is actually just a bit brighter than Bazby. So if I just bring his colors down, he should fit with Bazby now. I think it's okay for him to be a little bit bright because he is meant to be on a game show, so you know, we can say he's got lights flashing at him because, yeah, or like lights pointing at him as you would on like a film set, because he is on a game show. But either way, I'll bring him down a bit. So there's still some bits that are not final, like there's meant to be a presentation thing here, still not there yet. Those all go in the final edit. Yeah, the main thing here was just Bazby's Well, Gluttnormy's brighter than Bazby, and Bazby was a bit too quiet, a bit difficult to hear. So there's fairly simple fixes. Fairly simple fixes there. This scene I thought was too quiet. No one else said that it was, but I personally thought it was too quiet. So again, just bumping that up. Then we get to this scene. Let's have a look at the notes for this scene. Okay, so for the scene where they're actually just standing by the portal, there was no complaints here of anything. It's only when we actually go into the portal. First of all, I noticed you can barely see it, but it was and maybe I was looking at it too hard, but you can kind of see the portal, like his hand starts to overlap the portal a little bit. But all I can do for that is just move this literally, you know, tiny bit across that to the left, and that'll be fixed. And then in this shot, obviously used Ultra Key. I used a more intense Ultra Key than I did in the rough cut to get rid of the green screen. I didn't just slap Ultra Key on like I did in the rough cut. It's been tweaked more so that you actually can't see the green screen for the most part. We're going to get to that in a minute. But what I basically did here was obviously Lumetri color to fit him in, make him more kind of purple-y to fit in with the background. I also did that in scene 3, I forgot to mention. But I did transform, and I moved the rotation up and down to get this kind of shake effect going, because he is meant to be traveling through it. So you can see him traveling through it, and it's more kind of immersive if it's shaking, if both the background and Gluttnormy himself were shaking. There's one version with the scale of the background at 200% and one with the background at 300%. So then when the front layer here shakes, you don't see little bits of black in the corners, because that was going to be an issue. If I just put the one layer on, you'd see little bits of black when it shakes off center. So I just put another one up there so you can't tell. There is a crossfade here to a different shot of him falling, and you can notice he is further away. Nobody noticed that. None of the audience noticed that. That was just, again, another thing I noticed. You can also see vaguely here, I don't know how well this is coming up on the screen recording, but on the big screen when we were watching it, it came up far clearer. You can still see a tiny bit of the green screen box here, but I know well, I've been told what to do for that. I showed Chris. Chris couldn't stay for the entire screening, but I showed him just this little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, you can just mask out Gluttnormy, and these corner issues will be gone." So that's fine. Someone did say as well they wanted this to be a little bit shorter, this kind of falling through. Because how long is it? It's about, yeah, it's about 10 seconds long. Some people did say they wanted it a little bit shorter. So I can definitely do that. I can just cut out, adjust the music a bit, cut out some clips, and we'll be fine. Ethan, the guy who plays Gluttnormy, he said he wanted him to spin while he's going through. I don't know if that will kind of kill the immersion a bit, because it'll be incredibly obvious that I'm just making him spin in post. But I'll give it a try, and we'll see. And I think that's it for that. Then they get up here. They see Raph. There's kind of a revealing shot there. No major issues. No major issues from this scene, I don't think. The Grim Reaper turns up again, and he's again too quiet, but nothing that hasn't already been said is in here. Yeah, overall this scene got really like positive reactions from the audience. If you go into the screening video, there's you know audible impression with some of the shots. Yeah, the only feedback really is in this shot, here. People pointed out Lauren's face seems a bit purple. I can kind of tone down, I can go into colors, I can go into the color like curves here and just bring down purples a bit, not not that much, but yeah, that's an easy fix. And then the only thing said about VFX in this thing, so obviously a very VFX heavy portion of the project, is people want, yeah, someone wanted sound effects for the effects, which I think I've already mentioned. But yeah, someone wanted sound effects, that's easy enough to add. And I personally wanted to get it for this edit. I wanted to have a more robust lighting effect for each of these balls that he's, you know, firing at the villain. I just simply ran out of time before, you know, this needed to be out before, it needed to be out on the 12th, because then I was away for a weekend. So I just ran out of time to add that. So I've had to push it back to the final edit. It's just got to go in at the final edit. Other than that, there was no other complaints for this scene. So in this scene, the scene where they find Gluttnormy and Greedy essentially die. The only two complaints here is music's too loud, and here, when they're meant to be like fading away, they are too blue. They're meant to be a bit blue because they're meant to be, you know, again, fading away. These were not shot on green screen, so I can't really fade them into a background because I can't just take them out. Or at least I can't in the time I've got. Yeah, I kind of put a blue mask on them, on both of them. And added like feathers and that to get a kind of light effect going. I've just gone too hard on the blue, so I just gotta make them less blue, more light blue, and then we'll be fine. And then no one had any complaints for the credits, other than the fact that I didn't credit the dog. And yeah, that was it basically. So I used the four main characters. You can see Grim Reaper's kind of on top of Gluttnormy because you know, he's meant to live inside him. I kind of use keyframe like animations to make everything so like poppy and, you know, punchy with the credits and that. I put videos over so the audience can actually see, you know, who was Gluttnormy, what is the name behind Gluttnormy, or if they saw at the beginning credits Ethan Davis, they'll be like, oh, who's Ethan Davis playing? They now know Ethan Davis was Gluttnormy. So I did that with loads of them to start with. Then goes into a big, you know, list, more traditional credits for the music. All the original creators, even the people who did covers of the original music, like here. All credited. There's a copyright disclaimer there, so I don't get struck down, hopefully. The site I used to get visual effects. Additional cast. Additional cast is people that appeared in the trailer, but not in the actual thing, and also myself, because I did a shot where I was dressed as Greedy. And it wasn't the actual actor who played Greedy because we had to have Greedy driving the car, and for legal reasons I had to drive the car. So we put me in Greedy's outfits, and yeah, so that was kind of there for additional cast. Rowena and Kara were there to take behind the scenes photos. A lot of the kind of evidence photos that will end up going on my website, these two took. If I'm busy, you know, filming with the camera, then they were the ones taking photos. So I put them in there. John and Chris are the lecturers who kind of supervised all of this. So I put them there. Costume design was obviously done by me. And then just a thanks page to just a handful of people that, you know, just helped make the project possible. You know, maybe not necessarily helped on set, but they did, you know, background stuff like, yeah, my driving instructor, because, you know, without the car, I wouldn't have been able to give people lifts and such. And then just ends on the title with some logos of equipment and software I've used, and then fades out and ends at 28 minutes 50. So yeah, that is Splitt Knee. That's the director edit for Splitt Knee. It's almost done. You know, the actual full thing is almost done. It's just tweaking this timeline now for the next week or so. And then the final product will be ready to go, hopefully on the 20th, and then have it set as a premiere on YouTube for them when it releases on the 25th. So I've got all the feedback here, I know where all the issues are. They're all relatively easy fixes. So next time I'm here, I'll be going through the producer edit where everything will be fixed and it'll all be final, locked in, ready to upload.